What's going on, box fans? Julian Williams with The Distance. I'm here to give some thoughts and opinions on refereeing in the sport of boxing and what needs to be done to ensure more protection of the fighters. This all started on Saturday night. I was watching Harry Joe Yorgi against Alfredo Angulo, and in the matchup, Yorgi seemed to be hurt in the third round. He did get hurt in the second round, but he got hurt in the third round, and he was wobbly and just catching all kinds of shots. And and at the end of in the third round, he just got caught with this shot that just knocked him out, that dazed him pretty badly. And actually in the matchup in the round, he was wobbling around the ring and he was hurt. It seemed like, and actually it seemed like he wanted to quit in a way, but he was so prideful that he just couldn't quit in his corner. They could have thrown in the towel, but they didn't, and the referee was just standing there watching the fight go on and progress, and just all of a sudden he's got knocked out with this brutal blow. And and it just made me think of some stuff that happened in boxing's past. It was just in this matchup, because there's a lot of talk about the referee in that fight, that it should have been ended earlier, that someone should have at least threw in the towel, or the referee should have ended that matchup. And sometimes I understand that there's some of these matchups, you get a lot of action-packed matchups, and that are very intense, and sometimes you get fighters, both fighters landing all kinds of shots, but Yorgi wasn't landing all kinds of shots and exchanging back. He was just catching blows and was on the retreat. And it's a lot different. And I understand that some fighters get caught with shots that completely knock them out, a la Randall Bailey, Francisco Figueroa, or Michael Moore and George Foreman. Stuff like that. But when a fighter is catching multiple shots and they're retreating and they're not defending themselves, and fighters are laying these multiple shots to the head, and and the fighter can't defend himself, and you have to think, whether it's throwing the towel or possibly even taking the knee or whatever. Take a knee, or have your fighter take a knee, or the referee needs to step in and do something. Because I've been thinking lately, there's been so many instances in boxing where the referee has just not stepped in when he should have, and ended up being very costly. Think back about 40 years ago, Emil Griffith and Benny Paret, when Emil Griffith had killed Paret in the ring. He had Paret on the ropes, and he's hitting with these hard shots and on the ropes, and he was standing straight up, and Griffith was just hitting him, and he was unconscious on the ropes, and basically he was dead. He was dead when the referee stopped the fight, and that's one of the first things I heard of. It's not the first time in history it's happened, but it was filmed and on television. It's actually on YouTube, and it's one of the worst one of the worst things I've seen in boxing was Emil Griffith hitting Paret with those shots that were very brutal, and the referee just didn't step in, in time. He just stood there and watched it happen. And then there was another matchup, Duk Koo Kim and Ray Mancini. Ray Mancini, as a lot of people know, is a former lightweight champion, I believe. I believe 130 or 135. I'm leaning more towards 135, but he defeated a fighter by the name of Duk Koo Kim, and basically Kim was getting just pulverized in the ring, and then he just went down all of a sudden, and he later died from the injuries. And that was another fight the referee didn't stop in time. And there was another one that was, I believe his name, Lupe Pintor and Johnny Owen. I believe Pintor was the fighter he was fighting, but I don't know if Johnny Owen was in the matchup because he died. Johnny Owen, big, tall, fragile British fighter, and he went in the ring and he was a warrior. He was eating all kinds of shots, and then later in the fight he just passed out in the ring, and you could tell that Owen was injured, that something was wrong there. But he came out in this last round and just passed out, and sometimes with a lot of this stuff, you have to think about the corner and the referee and what needs to be done to protect your fighter, because the referee's job, the referee has many roles in the matchup, and sometimes I understand, the fans want to see an action-packed fight, so let's keep it an action-packed fight. But when a fighter is getting brutalized and beaten, there's though the fans may like to see it, it's a big risk to the fighter's health, and sometimes a lot of stuff's hard to watch, and along with that, we talk about fighters being damaged goods, this, that, and the other, like people saying Miguel Cotto and Ricky Hatton were damaged goods from their knockout losses, but sometimes fighters end up damaged goods when they kill a fighter. If you think about it, Jesus Chavez, I don't think he's gotten over the Evander Johnson death. I don't think he has. And, and the list goes on. Nigel Benn, who seriously injured Gerald McClellan, he never recovered from that. So, I think what needs to be done right now, or what needs to be done overall in boxing, which more than likely will never be done, is I think that more needs to be done to ensure the safety of the fighters. And like I said, I understand that fighters get caught with shots, and which end up getting them ultimately knocked out. But when a fighter is say on the ropes and can't defend themselves, and they're just eating all kinds of shots, and the referee's just kind of standing there and stuff, where the fighter seems like they don't want to fight, that's a sign that you gotta end the fight. You gotta throw in the towel or whatever. Because in this matchup, Yorgi was injured in round 2 and round 3. He was injured in both of those rounds. And in the second round, he got caught with a shot that had him wobbling over to his corner. So you have to really think about, the safety of your fighter if you're a trainer. And I thought Jack Lowe should have threw in the towel, because his fighter seemed to not want to fight, and he was taking punishment. It ultimately ended with him being knocked out. But that's just my thoughts on that. Just leave me a comment, tell me what you guys think. But anyway, that was The Distance. Peace.